Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Foster, and I am a policy researcher at the Atkinson Center for Society and Child Development. I'd like to begin today by acknowledging that I'm joining you from Toronto, which is on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Wendat peoples, and is now the home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. It's my pleasure to introduce Melissa Hilton. Melissa is the extended day manager at the Waterloo Region District School Board and was previously a childcare center supervisor with the municipal centers at the Region of Waterloo and has worked in the early years sector, both in school boards and childcare centers for 16 years now. Melissa is joined today by Nick Landry. Nick is the Superintendent of Business Services and Treasurer of the board and has been leading the extended day program since its implementation in 2010. Nick is a strong advocate for school-age childcare services and innovative solutions to support communities. Under his leadership, extended day programs have provided an additional 4,000 childcare spaces for school-age children in the Waterloo region. And with that said, I'm going to pass it off to you, Melissa.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the Atkinson Center and B2C2 for organizing today's webinar, and also for helping to support filming of 3 videos in the spring of 2025, which highlighted the benefits of the Seamless Day model. And thank you to CUPE as well for funding those videos. So I think you're going to share the videos after the webinar today as a resource for follow-up with the recording of the webinar. This is part 2 of a 2-part webinar series, and Nick and I are happy to be here joining you from Waterloo Region to share a little bit about our story implementing the Seamless Day model at the Waterloo Region District School Board. And I know we have some participants who attended the first webinar, but many of you, it's your first webinar. So I'll start by sharing a little bit of context of where we were back in 2009. Prior to the implementation of full-day kindergarten in Ontario, we had a patchwork system of access to childcare for school-age children here in Waterloo Region. There were challenges for families, and our research team collected some data on the number of students that had access to childcare in their schools. And less than 9% of students had access to before and after school programs at that time. Programs existed in high-earning communities, and we had neighborhoods that were underserved and had never had access to before and after school programs. So we had, issues with access to care, but we also had some issues that providers were experiencing. So at that time, childcare providers were operating the before and after school programs in schools, and they were sharing challenges with retention for early childhood educators because most of their staff were working split shifts, and they were experiencing a high staff turnover. At that time, with the implementation of full-day kindergarten, there was transformational change across the early years sector, and we were seeing more childcare programs transitioning to expand to younger age groups like infants, expanding their toddler programs, and adjusting to the implementation of full-day kindergarten. And we felt here at the WRDSB that there was an opportunity with the onboarding of a new work group, early childhood educators, to implement Charles Pascal's vision with our best future in mind and really have the ability to enact change across the system and improve access for all families. And so our senior leadership team received approval from trustees to pilot an extended day program and worked closely with our service system manager at the time, Nancy Dickinson, and today that's Barb Cardo at the Region of Waterloo, to identify high priority areas, so areas where there was a demand for childcare, school age before and after care, but they had never had access to programs, and to pilot a handful of programs in those areas to improve access for families. And so fast forward post-pilot, over the years, our programs have grown so that today we operate extended day programs in every one of our schools where we have students in JK, and we've expanded the JK to grade 2 all the way up to JK to grade 6. And so we offer a hybrid model here at the WRDSB where in some schools, third-party childcare providers offer the before and after school programs, but where our third-party providers have declared sites non-viable, or where, we've grown our programs over the years, the board has stepped in to operate programs at those schools. So we run directly operated before and after care in 75 of our schools. And then we have a number of schools that third-party providers offer the program. And so today we have programs in 100% of our schools, and we've had an impact in terms of access to childcare for school-age children here in Waterloo Region. Some of the benefits that we're seeing implementing this model is that we no longer have a patchwork system where we have programs operating at different hours, charging different fees. We have established a service agreement with our childcare providers, our partners, to outline the terms and conditions of services that will be provided so that we're aligned with operating dates, operating hours, within reason for the fees that are charged to families. So we're seeing a more consistent service across all of our schools. As I mentioned earlier, we're seeing improved access because we have programs now in every school, but also improved access for students with special needs. And so in our board-operated extended day programs, we currently support over 4,000 children attending programs, and we have hundreds of children who have a disability or accommodation needs that we're able to support. And we implement the same supports and strategies that are in place for that student during the day, before and after hours. So if there's specialized equipment or access to a space within the school, such as a sensory room, we can access that space in extended day programs to provide that seamless support for that student. And so that's one of the strengths of the extended day model, is that children are in a familiar space. They're in their, school, in their neighborhood, supported by educators that they know from the school day. And the same supports that are in place in the school day just extend into after school. So the model that we follow, we hire designated early childhood educators for every classroom that operates an extended day program. And the ministry funds the one of those positions through the kindergarten program. And then the parent fee funds the cost of the other position. So we have one DECE start early at 6:45, delivering the before school program and then transitioning into the kindergarten program. And we have a second DECE who starts at 10:45, starting their day in the kindergarten program and then transitioning after school to deliver the after school program. And so programs are led by qualified early childhood educators, and they are play-based. So we do operate the program in a fully equipped kindergarten classroom that's resourced with play materials. And then play materials are supplemented from the extended day fee for older children as well, because the program does operate up to the age of 12 years old. And so the second staff that works in the program is either an educational assistant or it's a before and after school support staff. So we do follow that ratio of one educator for every 13 children registered. We couldn't do this work without strong partnerships with our service system manager, Barb Cardo at the Region of Waterloo. We work with them. We have a service agreement to provide fee assistance to families who qualify for childcare subsidy. We work closely with Barb's team, the managers on her team, where we have any questions about CWELC funding, and also for guidance. I remember as we worked through licensing our program, questions that we had, they were providing recommendations and guidance to us. We collaborate with them as part of their access pilot across Waterloo Region, where we're holding spaces for families who are facing barriers. So we will hold back extended day spaces in high demand schools for any referrals that come through Family and Children's Services or the Child Care Subsidy team to support families. We also work closely with them on childcare capital projects, The supervisors on my team here participate in the region-wide supervisor mentorship program, as well as quality initiatives for supervisors and childcare programs across Waterloo Region. Barb is very passionate about innovative solutions that enact change and system level change. And recently I attended one of the early years leadership meetings that she led, where she asked the leaders in the room to be bold, be courageous, and to do things that are not simple, but that will create change across our system. And I think that's one of the reasons why our program has been so successful here, is we've had that support. So one of the questions that we often receive is, is the program financially viable? How do you structure the parent fee? And here at the WRDSB, our programs are financially viable. Because we operate 75 in 75 schools, with a robust enrollment of over 4,000 children, we do have economy of scale, where some of our larger programs will offset, the revenue in those programs will offset the costs of running in some of our smaller programs. So we operate in some rural schools with enrollment as low as 3 or 5 children, and we're able to do that because we have that economy of scale. And Nick is going to talk to us a little bit about the financial viability of programs, as well as the fee structure. But as part of that economy of scale, I just wanted to add to that, as a school board, we're able to lean on other departments, facility services, human resources. We have a great communications team that helps with our website design. And I think that's one of the benefits of school boards operating the extended day model, is that we're a large organization with a lot of expertise that can support in different areas. So Nick, maybe I'll turn it over to you, and you could speak a little bit about the financial viability pieces. I know last time there were some questions that came forward that we weren't able to address. And so we could take those questions also. And I know we've got Nick until 2:45, so.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Just before I get into the financial viability piece, I think it doesn't hurt to reiterate kind of the landscape that we found ourselves in 2009. As Melissa said, at that time, childcare was offered at about 28 of our 103 elementary schools. But at those 28 elementary schools, less than 23% of parents could access the in-school program because of various licensing requirements. So, one of the arguments we heard at the time is, well, we're in 28 schools, but less than a quarter of the parents in those schools could actually access the programs. And I think that's one of the reasons we got into this. And I don't know if I can share my screen or not, but I actually found a visual that kind of shows the lay of the land when we started this. If you just let me know if you can see the map on the screen.
Yeah, we could see it, Nick.
Okay, so the green areas are the schools where we had in-school childcares back in 2009, and all of the blue area was, the childcare desert or whatever, where there were no programs or services offered. And it wasn't lost on us at the time that the core areas of our cities, Waterloo, Kitchener, and Cambridge, there was a dearth of available programs in place. So this was really part of our call to action to try and fill that gap and supplement, the existing programs as opposed to replace them. But I talked about this last time, and I found this visual, and I think it actually highlights kind of the importance of the work that Melissa and her team have done to make sure that families have access to programs throughout our entire district, not just in select neighborhoods. So stop sharing that. In terms of financial viability, like Melissa said, we are a large program now. We enjoy economies of scale now. Wasn't always the case. I remember opening the program with Melissa. I think we had 4 schools, 64 children. So a lot of this, a lot of the support work, HR, finance, did happen off the side of people's desks. We acknowledge that. But as the program grew, we've been able to actually hire resources in HR, in finance, additional DEC supervisors or program supervisors, as well as some clerical support for parent health, so that the program really is now self-sufficient. And then in terms of developing the fee structure, obviously 75, I think, 80% of our cost structure is salaries and benefits. That's a little bit lower than our school board percentage, but still pretty high. So any changes to collective agreements, which are negotiated centrally in Ontario, centrally I mean by the province, have an impact on our program costs. We have administrative support, which is about 2 to 4%. Various operating costs. When a childcare operator runs a program in our schools, we charge them a per square foot fee for utilities, maintenance, custodial, etc. But in terms of running our own programs, we charge our own programs that same fee. So we are on the same playing field and expect the same service as any third-party childcare provider in our schools. Special education support. We want to make sure that students can access our program and get what they need. So we do have a component of our fee that is dedicated to special education support, and that allows us to hire dedicated staff, whether it be educational assistants or before and after school support staff, to help address any needs that the students might have. And we set our fee annually. Our fee for next year will be going to board in a couple weeks. We try our best to have it not fluctuate too much from year to year. Sometimes, if there's a new collective agreement or things like that, obviously there's upward pressure on the rate. But we try and maintain consistency. And, yeah, I think that's kind of it for me for now. Turn it back to you, Melissa.
Thanks, Nick. I can talk about some of the supports that we've put in place for schools, for supervisors, for principals, and for educators. So part of the fee structure includes an amount for play materials, and those funds go back to the school. And the school team will purchase additional play materials every year. So in the beginning, we were hearing from principals that equipment was being used for longer portions of the day, and they needed to replenish gym equipment or play materials from kindergarten. And so built into the fee is funding for the schools to replenish those items. We also have established a framework where we have a central team here at the Education Center that reports into me. I have, there's 10 supervisors on my team, and they work the same shifts as the DECEs, so that AM shift or that PM shift, and they're out in program 50% of their day, visiting schools, auditing licensing requirements, supporting parent, concerns, follow up, supporting principals with questions that they have. And then the other part of their day is administrative tasks. So supporting the hiring processes and training for DECEs and administrative duties. So that team is a central support that assists principals so that it takes those items off their plates, and the supervisors are the designates before and after hours when the principals are not in the building. And so I have 5 teams of 2 supervisors, and each team is comprised of an AM and a PM supervisor, and each team supports about 15 schools, which means they rotate through their site visits, and we have a formalized process for that. And they go out and support those schools, and they develop really strong relationships with those school administrators, and they are key support in the success of this program. So those are some of the supports that we provide to schools and to principals. For DECEs, this is having, board operated extended day programs is great for the ECE profession. Here at the WRDSB, we have 165 additional permanent full-time positions, 35 hours a week. These positions are unionized. We offer medical benefits, a pension plan, competitive salary. They are on the provincial grid that Nick referenced earlier. And so offering the extended day program does create more work in the profession for ECEs who are interested in working with school-age children. And so my team organizes professional learning for DECEs. We have 7 PD days in a school year, and the program is open on 2 of those 7 days, and each DECE has to work 1 of the 7 PD days. And the other 6 days, they're receiving paid professional development, either at the school or centrally organized. And they have a lot of support here centrally with my team. We do monthly information sessions. We have a monthly staff newsletter for DECEs, and provide a lot of support to them. So I don't know if there's any questions, Daniel, coming into the chat that we can address.
No, but we can leave it open right now. If anyone has questions, feel free to pop it into the chat, or you could raise your hand and we'll get to you. Here's a question from Danielle. Do you hire DCEs separate from the board?
So all of our DECE positions are posted as school board positions, and you're hired into the role, and the principal assigns the shift every year. So you could be assigned an AM shift 1 year, working 6:45 to 2:15, and next year you're working core hours, working in the kindergarten program, and maybe the following year you're assigned the PM shift, 10:45 to 6:15. And so those positions are school board positions. They have the same benefits, whether it's an extended day shift or a kindergarten core day shift. You are receiving the same benefits and you're on the same pay grid. And I'll add that extended day, all of our policies and procedures are fully integrated into school board procedures. So we're not operating as 2 separate organizations. We're fully embedded in board policies and procedures. In the templates that are used for individual plans of care for students, we have an extended day section embedded in that same template.
Fantastic. Kale, you have your hand raised.
Thank you. I have a few questions, but I'll just start with one. Curious about the PL opportunities being offered to the DECEs during PD days. I'm just curious how the system-wide PL for ECEs that was recently rolled out and potentially no longer being done, how is that approached in the Waterloo Extended Day model?
So we work closely with Learning Support Services. We have some consultants who help support the organizing of professional learning for DECEs. They offered a 3-part series for DECEs on Acadiance training. They've been working closely with, we've brought in different speakers, focusing on equity and inclusion. It's a big group when we get all of them together. I think there's close to 600 DECEs here at the WRDSB. So we often have to rent a venue, and we'll bring in speakers and provide resources, and it's a great day. Yeah.
Great. I'm going to ask these questions in the order we got them. So I'm going to go to Marnie in the chat, and then Sherry, you have your hand up, so we'll get to you right after. Can you operate a program at a school with just 1 kindergarten class and only 1 DECE?
So we have many schools that have 1 kindergarten class, and we run 1 extended day section. So part of our model is that we don't exceed the number of kindergarten sections. So if a school has 2 kindergarten sections, we will have 2 extended day sections. And really that's because of our staffing model, but also the facilities. We need those fully equipped kindergarten rooms in order to offer the program. So we have never run with 1 DECE. Our model has always been the AM and PM shifts that we have so that we can offer before care and after care. So that's not something we've done here at the WRDSB.
Okay. Sherry, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I have some finance related questions. So Nick, you mentioned that your implementation at the beginning obviously was off the side of the desk, meaning just additive responsibilities without any cost to support additional support. At what point do you have any records or history that you could tell us at what point you moved from kind of a extra responsibility to kind of a revenue neutral position as a board who's trying to figure out if we can do this on a viability perspective in a very, very rural board, not rural in your context, but rural, just trying to get a handle on what we might expect for implementation costs for multiple years before we are cost recovery. And also, sorry, part B, any sense, do you do tracking by location to kind of get a sense on school size and kind of what the over-unders are by school, just to try to get a handle on that?
So I'll answer the second part of your question first, Sherry. We don't track expenses at the site level. We could track some expenses at the site level, but I don't. We try and balance. We balance on an overall basis, so I don't worry too much about the individual school because there could be a lot of reasons for various costs at a school. I'm looking at our growth in programs. So in 2010, we had 4 schools, average FTE of 42. And I think at that time, Melissa was the only employee of the program. And I'm trying to think when we started bringing folks on in HR and finance. I want to say it was around 2014, 15, where we were in 64 schools. We had about 890 FTE. Now, it just depends. Like we built it into could we have done it sooner? Yes. Maybe not with 42 FTE, but once we got up to 25 schools, 400 FTE, I'm sure I could have built in an FTE or 2 there. Whatever you put in is going to flow through the cost structure if you like to the cost of the parents if you don't have enough like kids, right? And I know that's your challenge is how do you build in that and then spread it across the number of kids. I can look, Sherry, and then get back to you to see when we started adding staff.
Perhaps we can chat offside, Nick, sometime.
Great. I'm jumping back to the chat here. A question from Sylvia, a few questions. Who replaces absent staff when sick? Do supervisors work on the floor during replacement staff shortages? And who does evaluations for extended day staff, for example, support staff?
Yeah, thank you. Great questions. The supervisors manage, all of those pieces centrally. Over the years, when we first started, supervisors were monitoring absences that were coming in through the night to make sure that 7 a.m. program was going to open and we had supply coverage deployed. But over the years, we've been able to build into this central team 2 operator positions. One starts at 5 a.m. and works till 12:30. The other starts at 12 and works until 7:30. And they're monitoring all of the extended day absences and ensuring that we have supply staff deployed out to the schools so that programs stay open. We've also centrally hired an itinerant team of LTO supply staff. So we have 10 a.m. positions, 10 p.m. positions every year. So they're hired September to June. They're itinerant fail-to-fill supply DECEs, qualified DECEs. They're guaranteed work every day, but they're deployed the morning of. And so those 2 operators report into the supervisor team. They manage those 2 positions. They are secretary level D positions, and the supervisors at times do have to cover fail-to-fills during peak absences, flu season in November and February. But on a team of 10, that's rotated through, so it's not very often.
Great.
And then the question around DECE appraisals, I partnered with Learning Support Services and we rewrote the appraisal in 2022 to better align with some of the requirements under the College of Early Childhood Educators, make connections to how does learning happen. And there is a section of the DECE appraisal that pertains to extended day, section 5.5, and the supervisors and I will help school administrators with that section. So we write that section of the appraisal.
Great. A question from Trisha. When you offer an after-school program that is more than 13 children, are there additional staff and school board staff as well? Are all the staff in the after-school program DECEs?
So at the ratio of 1 to 13, the position is a designated early childhood educator. And then when the 14th student registers, we will have either an educational assistant if there are students in the class that have accommodation needs or disabilities, then it will be an EA, a qualified EA, as that second ratio position. If it is a strictly ratio position, then it'll be a before and after school support staff. And then we operate every section as a ratio, like 1 to 13. So 2 educators, maximum group of 26.
Great. I'm going to do one more question from the chat, jump to Kale, and then back to the chat. Do benefits for ECEs at third-party operators differ from board-operated programs?
I'm not familiar with the third party because we have 7 different childcare providers who operate childcare services across our system. We have the YMCA, the YWCA, Jacob Hessler Childcare, Creative Beginnings, and each of them have their own, benefits. But the school board extended day, like staff, DECEs before and after school support staff, follow the school board benefit comprehensive benefit package.
Great. Kale, we'll jump to you.
And Nick might have something more to add to that.
Oh, Nick, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say we don't know exactly what the third parties are offering, but our staff would be a part of owners for the pension. They'd have a public sector pension, and then they would also, like Melissa said, be a part of the Employee Life and Health Trust that for ETFO, Education Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario. So they would have that benefit, supplementary benefit plan as well. I'm not sure what each of the operators provide. They may have something, but I think the big differentiator might be the owner's pension.
Great. Kale.
Thank you. I'm an educator that's working for an organization that has had extended care within the schools. We're actually celebrating our 40th anniversary of that part of our organization this year. And even still, 40 years in, we're still struggling with a difference in pedagogy between the school educators and the early childhood educators that are working within the school. Because this is a new system, the new model in Waterloo, I was curious, have you experienced, I don't know, a clash of culture between a curriculum first, pedagogy after, and a pedagogy first emergent curriculum within your system? And if so, how have you approached and massaged that?
I've heard that same feedback from some of our childcare partners, and we don't experience that within our staffing. Educators that are working in our extended day program are working in kindergarten. So they see it as like one day it's extended, the school day is extended, and the extended day program is play-based. It is founded in How Does Learning Happen? And the educators are part of that school team. So even those relationships with the school team, they're strong, they're established, they're following school board policies and procedures. They know the playground rules at the school. They know the families. They know the custodian. They know the secretary. So they have those strong relationships with school teams. And so the relationships are strong and the pedagogy is seamless.
Great. Question from Cynthia. How do you work with collective agreement provisions for staffing, for extra support that's mirrored during the school day? For example, hours of work, natures of work, etc.
So All of our additional staff that are hired, in addition to the designated early childhood educator, whether it's an educational assistant or a before and after school support position, those are term hours. And they're based on enrollment. So if enrollment comes down, those hours can end with 2 weeks notice. They're not permanent full-time hours. They're term hours that are assigned in September to June. And if enrollment changes, if enrollment increases, we add more term hours. And employees apply into those positions and they're interviewed. In many cases, the hours are allocated to staff who are working in the schools. For example, if we have a child enroll who needs additional support and we have to hire, the first person that we look to is who's the EA supporting that child during the day. They are a familiar adult for that child, and they know the supports and strategies that are in place in the day that can extend into the after school program.
Great. Question from Colleen. When you transition to the seamless day model, how did the DECEs already employed by Waterloo react to their shifts changing from their original shifts to an earlier start or a later end times?
Nick, do you recall if we implemented the pilot immediately, or did we have some time where all DECEs were core? I don't remember that. I feel like right from the beginning, we implemented the pilot. So it was embedded in our posting, the language that we were using. You're hired by the board and your shift will change every year. And then just the central messaging to the system around the benefits of the extended day program to children and families. Educators, bought into the idea that we could create this transformational change and improve access and have the program in every school. And so there's a lot of central messaging to administrators, to educators, to teachers, custodians through facility services to build capacity in the system to, have buy-in for this program. And then right from the get-go, we explained your shift will change. And this is an important program for the community.
Great. We've got a couple questions from Sylvie, so I'm going to break this up into parts, and you can respond to the first part. If you have a special needs child with an EA one-on-one, does the EA work the extended day to follow the child? If not, is the child still receiving one-on-one care?
So it really depends. Just because a child receives one-to-one support during the day doesn't mean they need it after school. The program is play-based. We spend a lot of time outside. We don't always see the same needs in aftercare. So the supervisors will meet with the school principal, the CERT, the family, look at the child's needs, what's the best support plan. And if it is determined that one-to-one support is required, then we will reach out to the same EAs at the school to see, are they interested in term hours that start after school for an hour or two, depending on the child's attendance, so that they can support the child. And then they'll work with the child one-to-one in aftercare.
Great. And the second part of this question that Sylvia is asking, who buys the snacks offered? Are they delivered to the school or does a staff have to go pick it up? If delivered to the school, do you remove the RECE from the class to put the food away in the fridge?
Our snack program has evolved. I think the first couple of years, Nick wrote the menu for the snack. But we have undergone a formal RFP process, and, through established procurement guidelines, we selected a vendor. We work with Organic Kids. They provide snack to our board. They have, drivers who deliver the snack weekly. We provide a lot of fruits and vegetables, protein items. The snack menu is really healthy, and the cost of that snack is embedded in the parent fee. So I think in a year we spend, Nick, over $1 million in nutritious snacks that are redistributed in the school. So fruits and vegetables, we have, sandwiches, hard-boiled eggs. We've got a great snack menu, but whatever's not used in extended day is redistributed in the school.
Great. Another question from Keith. Does this 14th student automatically trigger a new hire? Is there a threshold for adding another program?
So throughout the year, I monitor enrollment, and as we need to, supervisors will add additional staff to the program, as I mentioned, through term hours that are posted. And then to add an additional section, I look at the enrollment, and when I know that we're sitting at 25 to 30 families on a wait list, and we do have another kindergarten section, then I will reach out to HR and work with HR to post additional DECE positions, and we'll announce that we're opening up another section, and then we'll be able to support those families on the wait list. So usually, we monitor that throughout the year, but every year come December, January, we typically add another few sections.
Great. Question from Charlene. What about the older children? Do you need DECEs in after-school programs that serve children in grades 2 to 6?
So we've built our program to be scalable across, many, many schools and hundreds of staff. So we apply a kindergarten ratio to every classroom, even though we have children who are in grades, 3 to 6 attending. And we have the same with our staffing model. It's always a DECE for each section. And then the second staff is either an EA or a before and after school educator. We did provide training when we opened up the grades from JK to grade 2 to JK to grade 6. We implemented training for DECEs on working with older school age children, youth development training through peace learning communities. And this year we ran another round of training for educators around cooperative games and community building for children who are 8 to 12 years old. And in some of our schools where we have one section and it's mixed grouping 4 to 12 years old, the older children are leaders with some of the younger children, and it works out really well. We've supplemented the materials, and the educators are, experienced in program planning to provide those differentiated activities depending on the age group of the students that are in attendance.
Great. Question from S. Do third-party operators only provide care to infants and toddlers and preschoolers, while the school board offers care to kindergarten to grade 6?
So when we first implemented programs, we had all of our purpose-built childcare centers that were co-located in schools. We currently have 24. Also delivered the before and after school programs. So they offered infant, toddler, preschool, full day programs plus school age before and after care. And then over the years, one of the trends that we've been seeing is more and more third-party providers closing their school age programs and using those ECEs, because we know there's a shortage across the province, to expand their infant, toddler, preschool spaces. And so it's flipped now. So we have purpose-built locations that are no longer offering before and after school programs. So we lost 11 programs, 11 YMCA programs in 2022, before and after school care programs, and then another 6 that were operated by Jacob Hespler Childcare. We lost those as well in the last couple of years. So today we operate most of the before and after school programs just because it's challenging for providers to staff the programs. Maybe I'll offer if there's any additional finance questions. I know Nick has a commitment. He's only got a couple minutes. We could take those and then we can excuse Nick, and I'm happy to take the rest of the questions.
I don't see any funding related questions in the chat.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank you very much,
you.
Nick.
Yeah, no problem. Take care.
Take care.
All right. Any questions for me?
Yes, we have a few more in the chat here. This question is from Kale. In the first part of the series, I recall that the extended day programs are mixed ages, with some opportunity to split the groups based on developmental phase and based on registration, and that there may only be as many extended day programs as there are FDK classrooms. Does Waterloo have any plans to expand their extended day programs into shared space rooms, for example, libraries, activity rooms, gyms, in response to wait lists and childcare needs? If so, how might those DEC shifts look since they are not attached to an FDK class?
Yeah, it's a limitation within our model right now. We haven't looked at expanding outside of the model. We could grow by 13 spaces and have an EA or before and after school support staff term allocation issued for 13 students to work in another space within the school. But we are seeing limitations within the space that we have and within the staffing model that we have. We've tried different things over the years where we funded a full-time DECE position and opened up a section, and then we were operating at a deficit. This funding model and design works well at keeping us at cost recovery, and when we've deviated from that, we've operated at a deficit.
A question from Sylvie in a similar vein. Do all your programs have designated space? Do you have some schools where you share space? Example, JK, SK classrooms. You mentioned the use of other spaces in the schools, such as library, gym. I'm wondering more about classroom shared space and how that's going.
So we do have designated space that's licensed. As I mentioned in our previous webinar, we licensed all of our programs under the Child Care and Early Years Act in 2022. And as a result, we do have to designate, licensed space to operate the programs. And the main space is the fully equipped kindergarten room. And that space is shared with the kindergarten team during the day. But as I mentioned, because the educators working in the before and after school program are part of the school team, the relationships are established and there's communication throughout the day and it just works really well. I don't see the same type of relationship breakdown and issues over shared materials or shared space that I see in some of the third party operated locations because it's just one team. The teachers, I go to after school programs all the time, and the kindergarten teacher's still there working in the classroom, and the DECEs leading activities in the after school program, and it just works really well. We do use libraries, gyms, pods for art projects, but that's supplemental space to provide differentiated activities if the group splits up into small groups.
Great. A couple more questions from the chat, and then I'm going to jump to Kale, who has her hand up. Do your programs operate through the summer months?
We currently do not offer summer camps in the summer months. It's something that I would love to offer to the community. We know there's a demand. We share information with families about community programs that are available in the summer months. One of the challenges that we have is our collective agreement defines the work year as September to June. So staff would have to volunteer to work during the summer months. And so many of them go on EI for the summer. And so that's the challenge for us right now is to be able to staff a program in July and August.
Sort of piggybacking off that question, how do you serve the community during the summer since you don't offer?
Yeah, the programs are closed. We don't offer services in the summer. So we share information about summer programs that are available, third-party operated or through the City of Cambridge, City of Kitchener, City of Waterloo. But our program ends at the end of June and then starts back up and it follows the school year because of the way the collective agreements are written.
Great. I'm just going to ask this one more question from the chat, Kel, just because it's related to this. Do you operate during the winter break and over March break?
Yes, so we do operate programs for the winter break period that fall, like we can't operate between December 25th and January 1st because we don't have any custodians during that time. But the time outside of that window, we are able to offer camp programs for winter break. And then we do run the full week at March break. We offer full day programs for families. We collapse locations, so we'll take, 2 or 3 schools, they'll move to a host site, and we'll operate at 16 to 18 host locations.
Fantastic. Kale.
Thank you. My question is about supporting ECE placement students. Has the Waterloo Extended Day Model taken on any placement students? And if so, are they taking on the typical placement shift where they're there for the morning, afternoon in the classroom, or are they following one mentor that's doing either the AM shift or the PM shift with your extended day?
So we do partner with Conestoga College, which is our local ECE diploma program here, as well as some others in surrounding areas who reach out to us for student placements. We have a survey that goes out to school administrators with every semester, indicating, who's interested in taking on and supporting an ECE student this semester. Principals will fill in that survey, and each semester we support about 50 ECE placements, and they're assigned a DECE as a cooperating teacher, field placement support, and they can be either AM shift, PM shift, or core, and the student will work those same hours. So, and then on my team here, we support a Bachelor Early Learning Policy Development student, usually, if not every semester, annually as well.
Great. Question from Stephanie. I thought that the day was shared with 2 shifts, 6:45 a.m. to 2:15 p.m. and 10:45 a.m. to 6:15 p.m. But you mentioned 3 shifts, one that mirrors the school day. Can you clarify, please, or did I misunderstand?
So in the extended day classroom, we have those 2 shifts that you mentioned, that 6:45 to 2:15 and the 10:45 to 6:15. And what's really nice about that classroom staffing model is that there's an overlap between 10:45 and 2:15, where you have 2 DECEs in the classroom supporting that kindergarten program. So that is the staffing model for every extended day section. But at the school board, we have 3 shifts. We have the AM shift, the PM shift, and then we have the core hours where we have DECs working in a kindergarten classroom. That's not an extended day room. They just work the core day hours, then their full day is in the kindergarten program.
Great. There are no more questions in the chat, and we're coming close to the end of our time here. So, Melissa, I'm going to ask you one more final question, tying it back a bit to children and families. But after more than a decade of experience, what's been the most meaningful impact of the extended day program on families and children in the community of Waterloo?
I would say addressing inequities of access across communities. Every community has the program. Every school we have extended day in every single school. And also for children with special needs, the supports that we're able to provide for students with special needs, and more recently through the Access pilot with referrals coming in through Children's Aid and through childcare subsidy, where we're holding back spaces, we're able to remove some of those barriers for families, and we're hearing from families that it's having a huge impact.
Great. We actually have one more question in the chat here. Do you have different operational hours during PA and non-instructional days?
Yes, so during PD days and camp weeks, we reduce our hours to say 8 to 4:30 instead of 7 to 6. Families can access extended day from 7 in the morning till the school day starts, or after school from dismissal bell right till 6 p.m. But those hours are reduced to match camp program hours in the community.
Fantastic. There are no more questions in the chat, and so it looks like we'll be giving everybody 5 minutes back on their day. I'd like to thank Melissa and Nick for coming to speak today and taking time to chat with us. And thank you to everybody that came. I do want to mention that there is an instructional manual, an implementation instructional manual that'll be coming out next week, actually. So everybody that is signed up for the webinar, either the first part or the second part, will be emailed a copy of this manual. So keep your eyes out for that, because that'll be coming next week. And with that, thank you once again. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending. Reach out if you have any questions. Take care.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.